Welcome to Miller's Monsters, and I have another movie off my extreme horror list. This movie is a Japanese movie made in 2009 called Grotesque, and it's a story about a doctor with demented needs who kidnaps people and tortures them so he can feel what he describes as the thrill of the will to live. Before we get into it, take a moment, hit the subscribe, ring that bell, hit the like, send me a comment, and please share this with your friends if you think they would like to get into a nice extreme horror film. And as always, spoilers ahead. Grotesque isn't a very long movie. It's only about, I think it was about an hour and 15 minutes, and it is subtitled. And you will want to read the subtitles to get the concept of what this doctor is doing. But immediately we see a couple walking down the street passing a plain white van, and you know that's trouble when you see a plain white van just sitting there on the street. And we cut to the doctor inside, and he pulls out a sledgehammer, and as they pass by, he jumps out, conks them both on the head, brings them back to his home or lair or whatever you want to call it. And the next sight we see is them tied to a table facing, and he faces them toward each other. And he explains in detail every move he's about to make, and he tells them, you know, I'm going to torture both of you, and if you can show me the excitement of the will to live, I'll let you go. So we commence now with the torture, and you know, it's kind of like Hostel now, where he's pulling out different devices to torture them with, and he starts with the man and has a probe and makes her watch as he punctures his tongue and you know, in his side. And throughout this, he is asking, you know, the man, would you die for her? It seems to be a reoccurring theme in this movie, because as we get a flashback to when our couple first met, as they're walking down the tunnel, kind of foreshadowing things, she just comes out and asks him, would you die for me? And his answer at the time was, I'll do my best. So, you know, he's in love with her, she's not sure if she's in love with him. And so we flash back now, or not flash back, but move back into the current situation where they're tied to each other. And, you know, he's passed out from the pain, and the doctor awakes him, and they both have ball gags on, and he's throwing up and choking to death. And he asks her, do you want me to save him? And, you know, he's tormenting her, do you want me to save him? What would you do for me to save him? And eventually he does save him. And now we get on, you know, with both sexual and physical torture. And, you know, this goes on for a period of time, and then he says, okay, we're moving to the next level now. And lays him down and decides he's going to take a Makita chainsaw, and I bet they're darn thrilled that they proudly displayed the Makita name on the chainsaw being used in this film. And he starts the chainsaw and cuts off the guy's fingers, these 4 fingers, leaves the thumb, and on both hands, proceeds to make a necklace out of it, and puts it on the girl's, around the girl's neck, saying, oh, isn't that great, he made you a gift, what, you know, you should give him a gift too. And then proceeds to cut off her fingers, and at one point took the ball gag off and said, if you can stay quiet and only answer my questions, I'll keep the ball gag out. Well, the guy failed that test pretty quick, so he had ball gag in. She didn't. And you know, while he's performing his amputation of the fingers, she says something without being asked, and he says, you know, well, now you have to be punished. And his next step was to snip off her nipples, which is pretty gruesome to watch as well. In the end, he makes another necklace of fingers, puts it on the guy. So now, again, he's to the guy, would you die for her? What would you do for her? He says, I'm going to torture you now. And this is what I'm going to do. And how I'm going to do it. And if you say you don't want to do it, then I'm going to torture her instead. So, it's up to him to either withstand this torture and save his lover or girl he really just met that's, not sure. But, how far will love go in this case, or how far is your will to survival over that, having the love of your life survive. And, he says, I'll do it, or shakes his head because he has the ball gag in. And in one of the more painful scenes to watch in the movie, he takes a few nails and let's see how to say this, nails them into his family jewels. Okay. And so the guy withstands that pain, and then the doctor again explains everything he's going to do in advance, which is gruesome enough. Says, okay, now I'm going to cut off your, again, how to say this, member, and do you want me to continue? And he looks at her and, nods his head yes. And so he proceeds with that amputation and declares he felt the excitement. I'm going to take care of you now. So now all of a sudden we're in a scene which is a hospital. This guy's a doctor and he's trying to keep him alive the whole time. He's amputated her arm at this point, and he's, stitched it up and saved it so she doesn't die. He's done unthinkable things to unthinkable parts, and has medicated the guy and healed the guy. And now he's very loving and caring. He's like, you showed me the excitement as I promised. I'm going to let you go, but I got to nurse you back to health first. And, he's going out of his way to help him. And it's during this hospital stay that they're alone, our couple, and they say, do you think he knows? And they're like, no, he may not know, but he always smells of soap. And, that's a kind of a clue as something else is going on with this doctor besides his demented way of getting his jollies. But he continues to care for them. He says, I'm going to liquidate all my belongings, and I'm going to give you the money, and I'm going to be devoted to you. And pretty much he is for this section of the film. And then they're starting to believe that, he's a man of his word, and they're going to let him go. Well, and the last scene in the hospital is he's like, take your medicine. They take your medicine, they pass out, and then when they wake up, they're back on we'll call them operating tables, facing one another again. And he's like, I didn't break my promise, but you did such a good job the first time. I want to see if you can give me that excitement again. So now he's, again, explains in detail ahead of time. He goes to the guy, would you die for her? He's like, they're just looking at each other, and he says, I'm going to cut your stomach open. I'm going to take your intestines, tie it to the hook, and by the length of your intestines, you're going to have just enough time, or just enough length to reach this pair of scissors, cut your intestines, reach the girl, and cut her ropes, and free her, and I'll let her go. Unfortunately, you're going to die. So the guy agrees to this, and then we get to see the gruesome scene of him opening the guy's stomach, tying the intestines off. He's a cheerleader cheering on the guy as he struggles to get across the room to the scissors. He gets the scissors, cuts his intestines, crawls to the girl, cuts her the binding on her feet, crawls up, starts cutting the binding to her hand because she only has one arm now, and there's a metal wire underneath. And so now here's the guy's like, no, don't quit, you can do it. And well, the guy runs out of time. He pretty much passes away there, falls to the floor, and he's dragged off. And now it's just the girl left, and of course, you know, no one's going to survive this. And he's in one last thrill. He challenges her to show me a stare, show me that excitement, show me that will to live. And she's just staring at me, and all of a sudden she gets this nasty look in her eyes. She's like, you know, what are you thinking? And she goes through how, okay, your mother was a whore. I recognize her from here. You've never had anyone love you. You know, no one can stand being near you because you have terrible body odor. And this is what they discovered in the hospital. And she goes on describing, you know, that no one could stand her or be near her, and that's why he's got to get his jollies this demented way. And this goes on until he gets pissed off and takes our Makita chainsaw and pretty much runs it up her abdomen. So she's laying there dying. He grabs an axe, takes 3 wind-ups to her head, and chops her head off. And we see the head start flying up in the air. And in one of the most nonsensical endings here, after, you know, this intense extreme horror, the head falls down, and she happens to fall with her mouth on his neck, and she bites his neck and bites a chunk out of his neck. He's bleeding now out of the neck. The guide came to for a minute, takes a knife, cuts his Achilles, and he falls down, and we think here everybody's dead. But alas, somehow the doctor survived. We did say, you know, he is a doctor. He patched himself up, and we go to a scene where there's 2 stakes in the ground, and the cremated remains of our 2 victims are poured over these stakes. And he stands up, and as the camera pans back, we see many stakes. You know, it had to be at least 15 to 20 stakes in the ground. So, you know, he's been doing this a long time, and no one's ever survived. So we get the ending scene where the guy it's unbelievable. The guy is in the van, and he takes deodorant and sprays it under each arm now, because now he's been made aware. And the reason he hasn't noticed he has a smell problem. He doesn't smell odors. So that's why he's never known this before. But I guess since he now knows, he takes extra care. And a woman walks by the van, and the last scene is him jumping out of the van with his sledgehammer, and we hear a thud. So we can say he has his next victim. As far as extreme horror goes, it's extreme, hokey ending. Again, it's short, thankfully. It's pretty much torture porn. The story is okay, not that good. But it was on the extreme horror list, and I do like to explore all genres of horror. Would I say go out and watch it? If you're a fan of extreme horror, you may want to watch it. The only unique thing in the extreme way is how he ties the intestines to the hook and makes the guy walk across the room. A lot of this stuff, we've seen in Hostel before, and I give it a 2 out of 5. And like I said, just watch it if you're interested in extreme horror, just to see. And I should add, there is a lot of blood, as in the fashion of Japanese movies, so that's a plus for it. If you like what you saw, hit the subscribe, ring the bell, hit the like button, share it with friends, leave me a comment, and I'll talk to you later.